My name is Oliver Pickard, and I've always dreamed of building my own car, together with my aerospace engineer and rallyist dad, Andrew.
Hello.
I found the perfect project.
This is my Cox GTM.
The remains of one of only 800 made.
And that looks bad, but when you look at it from the inside, it's even worse.
Crashed, fire damaged, rusted, unrestorable. We aren't just modifying, but completely re-engineering. We aren't just bolting on parts, we are making the tools that fabricate the parts to build my dream car. Bespoke, one of one. This is Project Mosquito. Hello!
Hello!
And welcome to the workshop.
Good morning.
Good morning. So we've just come in here after having a bit of a break, and we've had a bit of a play with it again.
Yep.
And checked our tracking and
Checked our bump steer.
sorry. And we are 2 mil at 1 meter 98, which equals 0.05 degrees of bump steer.
Which is basically nothing.
Which is nout. That's not even nout adjacent, that's just nout. So
It's almost less than now.
no, because if it were less than nout, it'd be something.
Yeah.
But mega happy. So in today's video, our job is to actually make it a thing.
Yeah, make the rack mount.
Well, 2 rack mounts technically that are 1 rack mount. So we're gonna, our jig's all tight now, and so what we have to do is we have to make some little arms and brackets and stuff that fasten it to the chassis. And for the first time ever on this channel, we've got billet.
Yeah.
We have billet.
But it's a fitter, you don't have a milling machine.
No, we've got actually, well, we do have ways. There are always ways,
yes. But
we don't have any like traditional ways, shall we say, of making this into a rack mount. But just as Michelangelo looked at a block of marble and saw a pretty woman, we look into a block of billet and see a rack mount.
Let's crack on.
And some Americans look at a block of billet and see a Corvette wheel. I want a wheel that looks like a snowflake. I want brake light louvers, damn it. Is it catching? Wahey.
What is it? That's right.
Looks a bit wedge shaped.
4 mil.
Oh, sugar. When you hear the word billet, when people say like billet parts, it just means it's made from a big block. That's it. It's just made from a solid block rather than being cast, which is metal that's like poured into a thing, into a mold. But you can have like billet like this, or you can have like forged billet, which is made from a forged block.
So this saw I'm using now is an old-fashioned surf form, and basically it's actually made to do in window frames and door frames and things like that. But for aluminium, it works great. Obviously, the little saw is only so good. Only so good.
It's somewhat abusive to do what we did with it.
But we're never going to cut straight. So We've actually made it bigger than we needed it, and we're going to actually finish it, get it all down to size.
It's one of those things, when you do a bit of everything, you don't end up having a load of specialty tools. So we've got loads of woodworking tools, we've got loads of like working on houses tools, and we've got some engineering tools. And it's whatever works. Sometimes we all want tools, and I get loads of comments from people saying, "Oh, why don't you have this tool? And why don't you have that tool?" And the thing is, when you're building a project, you've only got a certain pot of money, and it's really easy in the early stages to go, "I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this," and then you kind of have to add up how much all of that'll cost. And if you're going to buy a new machine, then that's going to have to come out of your budget, you know? And obviously, people watch YouTube for, like, I don't know. I think a lot of people watch YouTube for, like, the fantasy of having a big workshop and being able to make stuff and all that. But the reality of it is that, like, everybody's on a budget. It doesn't matter whether it's NASA or, like, every single person's on a budget. And if the more money you have, the bigger stuff you can do. But it doesn't mean that you at home can't do a lot of stuff with just basic, simple tools.
The whole point of this exercise is to show what you can actually do with very little.
Yeah. You know, and if you want a big machine, you might not be able to afford billet to make it with, and it's like the lathe. Like, the lathe's wonderful, but the amount of stuff that a lathe requires, like different attachments and different ends and different cutters to be able to make certain things.
Like I say, if we had a 4-jaw chuck, which we don't have, we could put this in the lathe and basically face it all up.
Yeah, as if it was a Bridgeport, yeah. So now Dad has finally gotten this flat, which was a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. We can drill it with a hole saw. Now, I'm not sure that this hole saw is deep enough to go through it in one go, which is why we put the pilot hole in the first place. Because we might have to flip it over and drill it out from the other side, which isn't ideal considering that is a very wobbly hole saw. But we shall do our best. Takes some doing. It's not the best hole saw, its teeth are too big.
So we've got our rack now tacked in place. We've put the side brackets on. Obviously we've got to put gussets on and everything else. But before we go any further, I actually want to take the clamp off, take the jig off, remove it completely, and then recheck the bump steer, just to make sure nothing's moved so far, because there's no point putting all the gussets on and everything and finding out it's out at the end once you've welded it all up solid. So we'll remove this and then we'll check the bump steer again. Yay, success! So now we've got the rack out of the way and the clamps off, we can now drop it all out of the way and weld it up and continue to fabricate the mounts. We've still got the minimum amount of bump steer that we had, so we'll continue to check it as we go. Because obviously when you start welding things you tend to distort, but everything's tacked in place now, so it shouldn't go, if it does move, it shouldn't be very much.
So yesterday, while I was busy doing other stuff, Dad was good enough to come in here and finish off our second steering rack mount. Now, they're a bit trickier, these steering rack mounts, because it's a long way away from anything. Just how it's ended up is, you know, it needs to live where it needs to live and it wants to live where it wants to live, so we've just kind of got to get to it, and there's no way around that. The good news is that a steering rack involves super simple forces. It's not being pulled in 16 different directions. It works in tension and in compression. So basically your forces are this way and this way. Now, that's okay, but it's really difficult to make a mount that works in tension and compression that attaches to two tubes. So what we have to do now is we have to make some gussets that come off these. These will be superb and super stiff with the tube in the middle, because putting the tube in the middle means that the two pieces of metal gets pushed and pulled like that. And because they've got a tube in the middle, they tend to push and pull together, so it's very hard to twist them, which is really good news. What we need to do now is make sure that this area isn't getting twisted either. So we're going to make some little gussets and just do our usual thing.
got our little gussets here, and I'm not going to put them along the bottom. I'm going to put them on an angle up to the centre of the tube, like that. And I've also removed the corner. You can see there the little corner. I've chopped that off, so we can weld down there and stop, and then a weld across there and stop. And the reason for that is, if you welded it the whole way around and you did get for any reason you got a crack in it, you had an accident damage and it cracked, if it was welded the whole way around, the crack would continue down the weld the whole way. Whereas this way, it would only, if it did crack, it would only crack down the weld, but then it would stop. It wouldn't continue into this side. And I've done the same on the suspension here. So for any reason, if this takes a hit, it doesn't affect the turret. So it makes it stronger, it makes it equally strong, but more resistant to fatigue.
And if you're watching this, thinking, oh, come on, you're going to drill that tiny gusset. They don't weigh anything. Why are you drilling a hole in it? You're new here. One, Thank you. Okay. 2.5 at 2000 millimeters is 0.071 of a degree, which is nothing.
Nothing. In fact, it'd be impossible to get it any better than that.
Yeah.
Really would be impossible. So, and another thing to remember is, right, because the body of the rack is aluminium, our new clamps are aluminium, but the bolts that run through them are steel. And you can't put steel and aluminium directly together, especially when there's salty water involved. So if the road gets gritted in winter time, basically you're making a battery between the two dissimilar metals and salt water. And then, so the brackets will get eaten alive with the salt water. So what we've done, for now, we've actually just put an a plastic washer, a nylon washer, between the bolt head, the washer, and the clamp, just to keep them apart. And when we finish the car completely, we strip it down and we rebuild it, finished. What we'll do, we'll coat all the bolts in waterproof lithium grease to make a protective barrier between the steel and the aluminium. We'll also put a little gasket between the back of the clamps here, the alloy clamps, and the actual steel mounting point, just to keep them apart. Because if they touch, basically the steel will eat the aluminium in no time. And you've got to understand that when you're driving down the motorway at 70 miles an hour and the road's been gritted and it's wet, basically, it's just like being shot blasted with salt. So it gets everywhere. So it's super important, keep steel and aluminium away from each other.
Right, so I think it's time we put it on all four wheels again. Because
Cool.
yeah, it's been right. This, if we seem somewhat wizened, it's been a bit of a mission as this rack, much more so than we thought it was going to be.
Because at every step of the fabrication, we've actually put the rack back on and we've checked it again. So every time we've done some welding, we've put it back on. We didn't put all the gussets on originally, so we got it all welded up.
Yeah, do it, check it, do it,
check it.
Yeah.
Because obviously once you've welded it up, it's in there. You know, you can't alter it really.
And the last thing that you want after hours and hours of welding is for something to have worked with heat or someone to have knocked something in the process of making your rack mount, and you suddenly have like a degree of bump steer. Because if we had a degree of bump steer, like this would all be coming off and all be being made again.
Properly.
Properly. Yeah. So it's just not acceptable to.
So we've got 0.07 of 1 degree.
Yeah.
That's less than 10% of 1 degree.
We're
happy with that.
Happy. That's within
Mosquito standards.
Yeah, it's within thickness of paint. It's within like tightness of bolts. It's within like at that small of a margin. Things like the thickness of the paint on the rack and the torque on the bolts really comes into importance, and will affect things because you're talking, the thickness of a hair. And we haven't obviously fully tightened everything up as it would be, because another thing that we're going to do before we finish this car, we'll go through every single bolt and we'll shorten every single bolt to the correct and appropriate length for its application, because that's something that drives you nuts, isn't it?
Yeah, because if the top of the bolt that's sucking fresh air does nothing, you're just driving around with it, keep carrying it.
Yeah. So we'll shave off a couple of kilos just in unwanted ends of bolts. A lot of people say to me often, I use the term, 620 kilos, 610 kilos. An original GTM weighs between 610 and 620. I use 620 as a guiding weight, right? But it is our maximum weight. A lot of people say, how do you know it will weigh 620 kilos when you're done? And I don't. What I do know is it ain't going to weigh more than 620 kilos. Because if it weighs 621 kilos, it's all coming apart and all coming back together again until it's light enough. That's a maximum.
Yeah.
And that's really important for the way that our suspension works, the way that our tyres work. It's really important for the dynamics of the car to be under that weight. But you reckon it's going to be under 600, don't you? So,
be nice.
Yeah. I'm a pessimist when it comes to that kind of thing. But the easiest way to do it is every step of the way we make everything as light as we can make it.
Yeah, and as strong.
And as strong as we can make it, as stiff as we can make it.
Even now, this car's massively overbuilt.
Yeah. And we're currently around 60-something kilos lighter than a GTM rolling chassis with a mini engine in.
Yep.
We don't know till we get it on proper scales, and we don't have 4 scales. Our one bathroom, we could actually use bathroom scales to weigh this car because it's so light. I think it's 130 something kilos per wheel, even when it's the finished car. But anyway, let's get it on its wheels because I've been waiting all week to see this. It never looks right as a rolling chassis until it's got its steering rack in. And
well, you can even see here, what we were talking about the other day. We've rotated the rack back, and you've seen we've just checked it. So now the spigot from the steering rack is actually now in its correct position. It clears this shaft and gives us a really good angle to bring it up. We've obviously got to put another UJ in the rack and a collapsible column as per safety. So it's going to work out superbly.
And on top of that, it'll have the pedals and the steering wheel appropriate for the human body, which is not something that you can say about more sports cars. If you ever get in an old Italian car, be it a Ferrari, which funnily enough has the same brand of steering rack in it, or a Lamborghini, or a Lotus, often the pedals are in one direction, it's Stratos, pedals are in one direction, steering wheel's in another, and then your body is at another, and nothing quite works out.
Well, another thing worth mentioning, just let me get this straight edge. Lift it up at the bottom.
If you put it on the suspension mounts, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, the rack is still well above the bottom of the car. The bottom of the car's flat. The chassis rails kink upwards, like this, which has allowed us to mount the wishbones underneath the bottom rail. So now, even though everything's mounted underneath, it's still well clear of the ground. The first thing that would actually hit the floor is the bottom of the car, in the centre, not any of this.
And it's going to have full-length skid plates as well, just in the case that we ever have to go into the grass and there is things in the grass, although we do have a correct ride height for an MX5 or a Mini, about 5.5 inches. We will have underside protection as well, which will help with aerodynamics as well, because it gives a flat floor.
Yeah, because the floor will be completely flat from front to back.
There we go. Full lock. Mosquito, full drifter. Not quite drift car spec, but not bad. Rolling chassis for the first time ever. Properly rolling chassis. It's not a rolling chassis unless it has steering. Oh. So we're now at the point that we're at in episode 1. Except for the fact that it's longer. The car won't be longer, but the wheelbase is longer. It's 30 centimetres or a foot wider. It has twice as much suspension travel. It has, well, it didn't have an engine at all, but it's got over 100% more power than it would have had. It's 40 something kilos lighter. And it's awesome. And it's Mosquito. Come on, well, it's suspension. I couldn't compress the suspension properly before. It used to tow out because of all the caster. But now, take my clogs off. Sure feet guy will be happy about this bit. It's suspensions and everything. Right, factory MX5 front suspension, mini right-hand drive steering rack mounted upside down and backwards. Well, it's technically, it's a mini steering, it's a steering rack for a mini. It is not a mini steering rack. It is a Cam Gears Limited steering rack who made steering racks for Ferrari. So for all intents and purposes, this is better than a Ferrari because it has less bump steer. But, but no bump steer spacers, no wheel spacers in the front or in the back. Nope. No bump steer in the front or the back. Linear camber gains, proper geometry, and hopefully that's the last time I'm ever going to have to talk about suspension geometry on this channel because I know you're all sick of it. But
well worth the effort.
Yeah. And hopefully the quality has been worth waiting for the people who've watched 56 of these videos. Thank you. And thank you for all your comments.
Yep, really love the comments. We'd like to hear from you.
I know I keep saying it, but I'm going to keep saying it. Since we came back off our break, the response has been incredible. I don't know what you're doing out there, lovely YouTube viewers. I don't know whether you are sharing these videos on forums. I don't know whether you're all clicking like. I don't know what you're doing.
But whatever it is you're doing, just keep doing it, please.
Keep doing it, because like the amount of people and the amount of wonderful messages that we've had that are like, I've just found your YouTube channel for the first time ever, and this is the YouTube build that I've wanted to see for years and years. And thank you for that. Like, all of your comments, we really do appreciate them, and we read every single one of them, don't we?
We do.
It's huge. So please make sure you click like, and it keeps pushing us in the algorithm, because that's like the best thing that you can do for us, and it's absolutely free. We don't have a Patreon. We don't do any of that. I want to keep all of this as free as I can keep it. So please make sure that you support us by clicking like and leave a comment. Tell us what you think. And
hope we enjoy these videos.
yeah, and if you do enjoy these videos and you want to watch more of them, there'll be a playlist somewhere on the screen that is all of the Mosquito videos. So if this is your first Mosquito video, you've got plenty to watch. And there'll be an arbitrary video that's just one of my favourites that I'll post, and a button that looks like my face. And if you want to click on the button that looks like my face, that will subscribe you to this YouTube channel. Thank you all for watching. Please be awesome to each other, and I'll see you all in the next one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.